Okay, so this is a functional calculator. On the side, under it is just a picture of a calculator. So this is the math session, reviewing some of the functions of the TI-30xs MultiView calculator, which is the only calculator allowed on the GED test. And we are currently in session 2 at Literacy Pittsburgh's Tutor Conference, November 5th, 2022. So we're going to discuss calculator use during the GED. The GED test has 45 questions. Only 5 of those do not allow the calculator to be used. So it's really important that students understand how to use this calculator because it really is a tool they can use if they're used to it. There are also some math-related questions on science and social studies parts of the test. The calculator is only about $15. It's a powerful tool. It's only $15 or $16 on Amazon. You can get it at walmart.com as well. A lot of our students will buy it just from Amazon and just keep it so they have it. And during the test, they get 2 things, which I don't know that we're going to send that to you in the chat because your student is not a GED student, Kathy. So we'll just reserve that for another time. If you need it down the road, you can ask us. But these things that are available for the GED test are available online. They're on GED testing services. There's the calculator reference sheet and the formula page available. So here's the calculator reference sheet, and it's actually 2 pages, but I only put 1 page on here just as a demonstration of what it looks like. But it's a 2-page document. During the test, they get access to the calculator itself and then the formula page. But this calculator reference sheet is an instructional sheet showing what buttons you press in which sequence to perform an operation. And so it's important that students do this ahead of time, because if the first time they saw this was during the test, you'd spend a lot of time reading the calculator reference sheet. It looks very difficult. It's not if you've done it a few times. So that's the calculator reference sheet. And this is the mathematics formula sheet that they're during the GED math test, this is available. Okay, so the basic functions of the calculator are the on button. That's always the most important thing. So this is the on button, bottom left. It turns the calculator on, and it will turn it off too. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. An important thing I always tell people to set up when they turn their calculator on, in case somebody has put something in the memory before, is to clear the memory. We're going to look at the mode first to see what's on there. It should look like this: degree, norm, float, and math print. And if yours looks like that, there's nothing you need to do. If it doesn't, then you need to use this scroll key. It's the biggest gray key on the calculator to scroll, to change it if you would need to. But everything's set up the way it should be. So I'm just going to quit that screen and move on. This green second button allows you to access some additional functions that are not shown on the gray buttons. The additional functions are in green above each button. So for a green function, which is above a button, you would have to, it's a 2-step process. First, press the second key, and then the key that has the green operation above it. So for instance, to turn the calculator off, I have to press second, And then the on button, if you can see at the very bottom, the off is in green. So that shuts the calculator on. I'm going to turn it on again. Okay, so now we're back in action. This scroll button I mentioned briefly, it scrolls up, down, left, right. So it just moves the cursor around the screen. The delete button will delete one character. So if I put in 88888, the delete character will delete the last character next to the flashing cursor. So if you made a mistake and you put a 5 in and you meant to put a 6 in, you can delete the last one. And then the clear button, which is right here, clears the entire line, the entire problem. And then to clear the memory, because I said that's important at the beginning in case somebody has put something in the memory. Usually the easiest way to do it on a handheld calculator is to press the on button and the clear button simultaneously at the same time. For some reason, this TI-30xs emulator, which is like an on-screen calculator, won't allow me to press two buttons at the same time. But on a handheld calculator, you would press those two buttons. It would clear the memory. We'll get rid of everything, fresh start. But the way to do it with this would be to press the second button and then the 0, which above the 0 says reset. And then ask me if I want to do that. The answer is yes. I'm going to enter. But it's just easier to press two buttons simultaneously. It does it automatically, on and clear. Okay, there is a difference between the subtraction button, which is on the right side, with the math, basic math operations keys. So this is the subtraction key. And below, next to the red enter key, is the negative button. They're very different. And if you use them the wrong way, sometimes you'll get an error message on there. And that usually clues you into the fact that you did something that isn't okay with the calculator. It'll give you an error message. Sometimes it'll tell you what the error is. Sometimes you don't know, and you can just guess. Okay, so the basic math operations. And if you have a student who isn't at the level of some of the math we're going to do today, a good use of a calculator is to check their answers in the simple math. So if they are at home and they're just working on basic math, they don't have the answers to some of the problems, or they make some problems up, they can check themselves using some of the basic math operations. So I'm just going to run through some of them. 10, we press the 1, the 0, and then the basic math functions on the right, plus 15. And the enter is the equal sign. So 25. Then the next problem, I'm going to clear that line, would be -10 plus 15. I don't want to use the subtraction key because that negative sign belongs to the 10. So I'm going to use the negative sign, -10 plus 15, enter, and we get 5. I'll clear that. And then 10 minus a -15. Now, some students will just put the -15 in there. Looks kind of weird, but you can see there's a difference between the subtraction sign and the negative sign, which is sort of attached to the 15. They look a little bit different. Some students do it that way, because when you subtract a negative number, you're actually adding it. It's a weird concept, but it's just one of those math rules. The other way to do it, some students prefer having all of their negative numbers in parentheses because it keeps them focused or organized rather, you can do it this way, 10 minus, and then let me clear that. Okay. Ah, okay, here we are. I'm going to clear that. Some people or students prefer to do 10 minus, and then put the negative 15 in parentheses. And these are the parentheses keys. It just separates it so they don't get mixed up, and they can put parentheses into the problem with the number they want. Open parentheses, and then we use that negative key, 15, close parentheses, enter. And you see it's the same number, it's just a different method. A few more steps, but some people don't mind. Let's clear that.
Mary?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
On my computer, I can see basic math operations and I see the problems all listed down the left. But are you trying to show us on the calculator itself? Because there's no calculator.
You can't see the calculator. Oh, that's
No.
unfortunate. I did not know that. Okay. All right, hang on 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing. And let me try that again.
Have you tried sharing screen rather than like a single window?
Well, I practiced this and it was actually working when I shared. When you share two screens with Zoom, you have to hit the control key. You still only see that? You don't see the calculator?
Now I see the calculator.
Yay. Okay. I don't know what happened. Sorry about that. You're probably thinking this is boring. I'm not even seeing it. Okay. Well, thank you for chiming in. I appreciate that. Yes. So you should have been seeing this TI-30xs MultiView Emulator, and it's a product put up by Texas Instruments so that teachers can demonstrate things. And it's kind of a neat tool because you can actually show, in addition to the calculator buttons, as I'm pressing them, I'm going to clear the key press history and clear this. But it will actually show a history of everything I just clicked. So 23. And I'm going to do times 42 now. They put a dot in this problem, so it didn't look like algebra. Times 42. Enter. Now you can see the key press history. It's not necessary, but it's kind of a neat function if you want it on the screen. I find it a little distracting for this kind of thing. It doesn't show the answer. It just shows what sequence of keys did I press. Sometimes students want to know that, and you can print it out. So, well, thank you for that. So let me change the view back to hide key press history. I just think it makes it, more to see. And I'll clear this problem. So then we were multiplying these, and what you didn't see was the 10. I did negative 10 plus 15, so let me run by that one again. I don't want to use the subtraction key to put in a negative number, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but the negative key will always work. So that negative sign is out front of the 10. So I'm going to click the negative key and then 10. Add 15. and you get your answer when you click the enter button. Okay, and then I'll clear that problem and do the next one, which is 10 minus a negative 15. So 10 minus, and I was saying earlier, some students will do minus a negative 15 like that without parentheses. Some students prefer, and the reason for this is when you subtract a negative number, you're actually adding the number. Some students prefer to use it as it's set up with parentheses. So I'm going to clear that. 10 minus, then parentheses, negative 15. Close parentheses, enter. Same answer. Few more steps, but same answer. I'll clear that. And 23 times, I'll put the parentheses in, negative 42. Close parentheses, enter. Okay. And then to division problems at the bottom, 225 divided by 5, enter, is 45. Clear. 225 divided by parentheses, negative 5, close parentheses, enter. Negative 45, and that's because when you are multiplying and dividing, the only time you get a negative answer is when the signs of the numbers you're multiplying or dividing are different. So we have a negative and we have a positive, so you get a negative answer. All right, so for this problem that I have, try the subtraction button to see the syntax error. So I'm going to show you what will happen if you use the wrong button to do that function. I'm going to clear that screen. 23 times, and I'll put the parentheses in, and instead of the negative sign, I'm going to use this minus sign, minus 42 and it gives us syntax error, and all that means is you did something wrong, something the calculator did not like. And then if you click clear, when you make an error like that, many times it will show you the error that you made. And if you see the cursor is flashing on that minus sign, and it's giving me another chance to correct it. So I'm going to replace it since the cursor is flashing. Anything I type in now will replace what the cursor is flashing on. So I'm going to replace it with that negative sign. See how it was a little bit higher and smaller, and enter. And it liked that. It liked that method. Okay. Okay, so these are fractions. Kathy, I know you said your student is working on fractions. You're doing it manually, but this calculator does them easily with just a few buttons. So 9/12, we're just going to learn how to enter a fraction and how to enter a mixed number, which is a mixture of a whole number and a fraction, and do some operations with those fractions. An important button to remember is this scroll button, which scrolls up, down, left, or right. And this is the button over here. It's the biggest button. When you're in a fraction or moving within a mixed number, you'll have to use that to move around. And I'll demonstrate that now. So the first thing you're going to do is look for the fraction button, and it's right here. It's an N over a D, and that's numerator over denominator. We'll press that, and the cursor is flashing for the first number. So I'm going to put 9 in. And then I'm going to arrow down with the scroll button and put in 12. Now, I'm not doing any kind of a function or operation with this fraction. I just want to see if the calculator will reduce it or simplify it. So now I'm going to, I always come out of the fraction before I do anything. So I use that right arrow button just to move that cursor out of the fraction and hit enter. And what it's done is it's reduced the fraction. It's simplified it to its lowest terms by dividing the top and the bottom both by the number 3. So it's kind of neat that it has that function. And I'm going to clear this and do the next one. So 168. So instead of hitting the fraction button first and then putting the top and the bottom number, there's an alternate way to do it. And that's to put the whole number or put the first number in that should be up in the denominator and then hit the fraction button. And then the bottom number 24. When I simplify that by clicking enter, we get a 7. That's a whole number. Okay, clear? 92. Go back into a fraction. 12 at the bottom. Come out of the fraction. If I hit enter, I get an improper fraction. Even though it's reduced, it's an improper fraction, which means it's top heavy, just like the original fraction was. And there's a button on here that will convert that improper fraction to a mixed number, a mixture of a whole number and a fraction. And how you get that button, it's right here. It's above the X10N button, second, XN10. And you can see it flashing. It looks kind of weird, but it's telling you that it's changing this improper fraction into a whole number with a fraction next to it. Enter. So we have 7 2/3. Okay. So that is fractions. And let me clear this. And we will do a couple more. 1. Down, arrow down, put in the 2. Come out of the fraction by arrowing to the right. Plus fraction. 1/3. And the answer is 5/6. Clear that. One half. Come out of the fraction to the right. So your cursor is next to it. We're going to divide. 1/2 divided by 1/3. That's 3/2. If I want to change that to a mixed number, again, I hit the second button and this 10N button, which gives me, it shows a fraction going to a mixed number in green. Enter. 1 1/2. Okay. Clear that. Do one more on this page. We have 1 1/2 plus 3 1/3. So now I'm going to put in a mixed number to start. I'm starting the problem with a mixed number. So what I want to do is hit the second button, and then above the N over D button, above the fraction button, it shows that mixed number. U is the unit, and then ND, the numerator and denominator. So it's flashing on the whole number, 1. If I right arrow to the top of the fraction, I put in 1. Arrow down, put in the 2. Right arrow out of the fraction, plus And go back to that mixed number button again. 3. And 1/3 enter. We have that improper fraction. We can convert into a mixed number by hitting the second button and this convert to a mixed number button. It's 4 5/6. Let me clear that. Okay, decimals. They're pretty straightforward. But again, this is a negative decimal. So sometimes students will just do 2.45 minus 4.32, but you have to remember that that is a negative 4.32, and we can use the parentheses or not. So we're going to 2.45 times, we'll do it without the parentheses, times negative 4.32. And it's a negative number, negative 10.584. Clear that one. 17.456 times 3. Enter. There's your number showing the values out to the tenths, 100ths, and 1,000ths place. Clear? Okay, the mode button. This will change those things. Initially in the beginning, I said these things should be set this way. When you click the mode button, it shows the default or the last setting you used. But if we want to round our answers, our decimals, to a certain place value, this calculator will do that for you. So we can scroll down to where it says float. And that's the default. So that is the decimal point line. And what it's saying right now, that decimal point is floating in the answer anywhere it needs to be. It's not cutting it off anywhere. But if you wanted to round, say, to the hundredths place, this is telling you the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. is telling you how many places to the right of the decimal point do you want to round. So if you were clicking on 0, it wouldn't, there are no places to the right of the decimal point. 1 isn't to the right of the decimal point. So you would be rounding to the whole number. If you wanted to round to tenths, you would click 1, and you have to use this scroll button to move that cursor right into where you want it to be. If we want to round to 100ths place, we click right one more time, and the 2 is flashing. That's the 100ths place, and we can hit enter. Now we have to remember to change that before we leave. When we're done using this rounding function, we have to go back and reset it to float. Sometimes people forget to do that, and they wonder why their answers are coming out shorter than they should be or cut off. So if I click this up arrow, I can see the most recent problems that I did. And if I highlight one and hit enter, it'll copy it. And then because I asked it to round, because I set this calculator to round at the 100ths place, which is right here, this 8, it will stop the number there and decide if it's an 8 or a 9. And it decided it's an 8. And then if we go up again, that 52.368, if I hit enter, it copies it. And I hit enter, and it will also round that. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and reset that decimal point so that it's floating. So now it's flashing on float. I'm going to click enter. Okay, now we're back to where we were before.
Okay.
So let me clear that screen and clear everything. All right. All right, so this is the page on just a few percent problems. We're going to do the question, what is 26% of 88? And when that number or that word of is in a percent problem, that means multiply. But instead of having to figure out the decimal value of 26 and multiply that by 88, there's a percent button on here. So we'll just do the problem with 26. And then we have to hit that second button, this green top left button, and do the left parentheses button above it. It's probably a little hard to see, but that's a percent sign. 26% times 88 equals 22.88. Clear? 52. Again, second, left parentheses gives us the percent of 560. Equals 291. Okay, then we have this problem. It doesn't use the same language as the top one. This time it's saying 73 out of 365 days were sunny. What percent of days were sunny? So you set this up as, you can set it up two ways, but we'll set it up as a, let me clear this fraction. So 73 out of 365 and it gives me 1/5. If I want to convert that into a percent, there's the right parentheses has like an arrow going to a percent. Hit second, percent. It's 20%. Let me clear this. Exponents. On the left side, we have the original problem that we need to figure out a value for. So this is -2 squared. So we'll set up parentheses. We'll do it two ways, parentheses, -2, close parentheses, and then we're going to square this by pressing on the left side here, this, you can see it a little bit better here, x squared. Anything you put in and you click that, it squares it. Enter. A shortcut would be -2 without the parentheses. Squaring it will give you. Okay. So what did I do wrong? I used, let's see. I did not use parentheses. And it's thinking that I want this answer 2 squared to be negative. So we're going to do that again with parentheses. -2, close parentheses, and hit the square button. 4. Okay. Let's see, we have about 20 minutes left. 15 minutes left. Okay. Okay, so these are square roots and cube roots. The square root symbol is on this side above the x squared. It's the opposite of it. It's the square, but because, or the square root, but because it's in green, we have to use the second key before we hit that key. And then we'll try the first one, square root of 121. Enter, it's 11. I'm going to clear this square root. Of 9, 3. Switch over to this side, and these are cube roots. So this will give you the square root. That means what number times itself will give us that 9. That's the square root. The cube root is what number times itself 3 times will give us that value. And this button here, the sort of up arrow button, will allow you to put another number in besides square root, like a 2 here. So we'll hit the second button and then the up. Let me get rid of that. Oh, I have to put the 3 in first. Put the 3 in, then the second, then that, and it puts it as a 3. That's saying the cube root of whatever I put in under this sign. So it's 10. That's because 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. Okay, we'll skip down towards the bottom and do one more. We'll put another 3 in. Now we could do a 4th root if we wanted to, or a 5th root. But we'll do 3. And that root sign, 3375. 15. I'm going to clear this. Okay, so I know this is for more advanced math students. We have 10 minutes left, but I'd like to show it. If a student on a test was given this expression and they wanted an answer on the test, what this value of this entire thing would be if you replace the x with a 2 and if you replace the y with a 14. You can just type this in as you see it, but instead of the x, you would put in the number 2. Instead of the y, you would put in a number 14. So let's go ahead and go into that mixed number. 2. Move over into the fraction 3. Down into the denominator 4. Out of the fraction, right? And instead of an x, I'm going to put in a 2. Need to delete that. I need to put that 2 in parentheses times 2, or I'll get an error message. Now I'll put in the plus sign. I'll put in a square root sign. And y, the value of y in this problem was 14. which is a very weird number. But if I want to turn that number into a decimal, I can hit this white button above enter. It's a toggle button. It'll toggle between fractions and decimals and these square roots and decimal numbers as well. So that number, as weird as it looked, is like 9.24 something. Not as scary as what this looks like up here. So we're going to stop the recording now so that we have a little time. We only have a few minutes left.